Level 1. Survival Mode. This is childhood at the bottom of the wealth ladder, where household net worth is zero, and money is not a subject anyone teaches you. It is the weather you live inside. You are 8 years old, and you already know which envelopes are red. Nobody taught you financial literacy. You absorbed it through a thin apartment wall, one overheard argument at a time. Family emergency fund. $0 cash on hand. Roughly a third of American adults cannot cover a $400 emergency in cash. In this house, there is no allowance and no cushion. A school field trip form is a financial event. By 10, you are the family translator at the bank counter, reading the lease, explaining the overdraft letter. In millions of working poor homes, the child is the household accountant. There is a jar on the refrigerator marked light bill. Some weeks it holds $40, some weeks nothing. You check it the way other kids check the score of a game. Lunch at school is free, and you time your walk to the register so friends never see the different colored ticket. Shame is the first tax you ever learn to pay. There is no allowance at this level because money flows the other way. When you find $20 on the sidewalk, your first instinct is to hand it to your mother. Your first job comes at 13, bagging groceries and hauling flyers, and it is not for sneakers. The pay disappears quietly into the electric bill, and everyone pretends it did not. U.S. kids in poverty. 11 million, about 1 in 6 children. Roughly 11 million American children grow up at this level, about 1 in 6. The lesson they master before middle school is brutal and simple. Money is scarce, and it always runs out. In your classroom sits another kid with the same grades and the same homework. You are both getting a money education this year. You are just being taught opposite lessons. Level 2. Paycheck to paycheck. Household income sits around $45,000 a year. There is food, there is rent, and there is almost nothing left. Childhood here is stable right up until the transmission fails. Allowance exists at this level, but it is weather, not climate. $5 when the week went fine, silence when it did not. You learn to read paydays like a forecast. Take-home pay is about $3,000 a month, and every one of them has a job before it arrives. Your cleats, your yearbook, your class trip all compete with the water heater. The most common money sentence of your childhood is "we cannot afford it." It is not cruelty. It is arithmetic, spoken by a parent who is tired of having to say it. Then one Tuesday, the transmission actually fails, $1,100, and childhood pauses for a month. No cable, no restaurants, a quiet house. You learn a machine can eat a family. At 15, you take a fast food job at $12 an hour, and this paycheck you keep. It is entirely yours, which is exactly why nobody teaches you what to do with it. Teens with summer jobs. 37% of Americans aged 16-19. Only about 37% of American teenagers work a summer job anymore. At this level, you are one of them, learning wages years before anyone says the word investing to you. Your first paycheck vanishes into shoes, takeout, and a phone case, and nobody stops you. Financial education here is trial and error, run with the smallest stakes you will ever have. What looks like a stable family is really one bill from broke. From the street, this looks like stability. A house, 2 cars, football on Friday nights. The bank statement tells a different story. This family is one repair away from level 1. The lesson this childhood installs is endurance. Money comes in, money goes out, and the entire goal is reaching the next deposit without anything important breaking along the way. Level 3. The middle. Welcome to median America, household income near $80,000. For the first time, money is not an emergency. Now it becomes a curriculum, taught one chore at a time. You earn $4 a week at 7, with a raise every birthday, all tied to a laminated chore chart on the refrigerator. Allowance here is a salary with a job description. Average U.S. allowance, $13.50 per week. The average American allowance runs about $13.50 a week. Stretch that across a childhood, and it adds up to nearly $7,000 of practice money. Around 9, your parents walk you into a branch and open a savings account with $50. The point is, the ritual. Watching a number grow slowly becomes a personality trait. Birthday money arrives with a rule attached. Half goes into the account before you touch the rest. It feels unfair at 9 years old. It is the first savings rate of your life. Summers add a lawn mowing route and a card table selling lemonade. Your parents are not raising an entrepreneur. They are raising a person who permanently connects effort to dollars. Twice a year, you watch your father check his 401,000 balance and say the market is up, the way other men say a prayer. Investing exists at this level, but only barely. Average 529 college fund, $28,000 per account. There is a college fund now, a 529 plan holding around $28,000, the national average. It will not buy a degree. It will decide how big your loans are. At 17 comes the kitchen table meeting, in-state tuition, FAFSA forms, a number called expected family contribution. Your first adult financial decision is whether to borrow 5 figures at 18. This childhood teaches the middle-class playbook. Work hard, save a little, fear debt, trust the paycheck. It is honest advice for a game whose upper levels run on entirely different rules. Level 4, the upper middle. 2 professional incomes, roughly $200,000 a year combined. Money stops being survival and becomes strategy, and childhood quietly turns into a project with deliverables. Your afternoons are managed like a portfolio. Coding camp Monday, travel soccer Wednesday, violin on Fridays. Every activity is chosen partly for joy and partly for how it reads on an application. Upper middle families routinely spend over $12,000 a year per child on enrichment alone. It is not consumption. It is a down payment on a future salary. The private tutor appears in 8th grade at $80 an hour, not because you are failing, but because at this level, a B+ is considered a solvable problem. At 13, you get a debit card wired to an app your parents monitor, automated allowance, spending categories, savings goals. Money becomes data for you years before your classmates open accounts. At 15, a youth brokerage account opens with $200 inside, and you buy your first index fund shares. Your allowance now has somewhere to go besides a shoebox. You still take a first job at 16, but notice the shift. It is a lifeguard chair or a lab assistant post, selected for the college essay rather than the paycheck. Summer is where the levels show. Your camp costs more than the level 2 family earns in a month, and while classmates run fryers, you tour campuses in a rented SUV. What looks like a busy childhood is really an admissions campaign. From the outside, this looks like an ordinary, slightly overscheduled childhood. Underneath it is a coordinated 10-year admissions campaign, and you are the product being carefully developed. The lesson of this level is leverage. Money can buy back a child's hours and aim them at whatever the family believes compounds. Here, that almost always means education. Level 5. The first million. A 7-figure net worth, usually a paid-off house plus retirement accounts, built slowly over decades. These parents made it themselves, and they raise you terrified that you will not. U.S. millionaire households. 24 million most are first generation. America holds roughly 24 million millionaire households, and most of them are first generation. This level is usually built in one working lifetime, which explains exactly how they parent. This is the millionaire next door childhood. A 10-year-old Camry in the driveway, coupons on the counter, and parents who say we cannot afford it while the brokerage statement disagrees. At level 2, that sentence was arithmetic. Here it is philosophy. You are being kept deliberately hungry by people who could write the check without feeling it leave. Your allowance comes with an engine attached. Save half, and your father matches it dollar for dollar. You are learning how an employer 401,000 match works before you learn long division. $7,000 invested at 15. $206,000 by age 65 at 7% a year. At 15, your summer wages route straight into a custodial Roth IRA. $7,000 invested at that age compounds to roughly $206,000 by 65 tax-free. Dinner conversation covers index funds, expense ratios, and why the neighbor's new BMW is a liability in disguise. Other kids memorize batting averages. You memorize the difference between assets and liabilities. College arrives fully funded by a fat 529 plan, and you walk out with a degree and zero debt. That single head start puts you a decade ahead of level 3. Family wealth lost. 70% by the second generation. These parents read the studies. Around 70% of family wealth is gone by the second generation, 90% by the third. Your frugal childhood is their attempt to beat those odds. The training at this level is discipline. Money is a seed, never a meal. You may eventually spend the harvest, but the seed corn itself is treated as sacred. Level 6, the business family. $5 million, and it is usually attached to a family business. Childhood here comes with an employee badge, because the smartest asset a business owner can hold is a working child. At 12, you sweep the warehouse on Saturdays. At 14, you are legitimately on the payroll, filing invoices, and your name sits in the same system as 30 adult employees. Child on family payroll. $15,000 earned nearly tax-free per year. Here is the quiet tax strategy. The business pays you about $15,000 a year for real work, deducts it as an expense, and you owe almost nothing on it. Allowance is considered unfashionable here. You get paid for outcomes instead. A cut of the garage sale you organized, margin on the sneakers you flipped. Revenue is the family love language. School goes private, $13,000 a year on average, $65,000 at the elite city schools. Run that from kindergarten, and one childhood costs more than most houses. Understand what the tuition actually buys. Not better math, proximity. Your lab partner's mother runs a hedge fund, and the carpool line doubles as a networking event you cannot see yet. At 16, your summer internship is arranged in one phone call between fathers. The level 2 kid sent 40 applications for a fryer station. You sent exactly none. The money conversations change shape too. Not how to save, but how the business runs. Margins, payroll, what the landlord charges. You are being handed the operating manual, chapter by chapter. College gets chosen like an acquisition. Not the prettiest campus, but the strongest alumni network in the industry the family already operates in. The tuition bill is a rounding error. The core lesson of this level is ownership. Employees are trained to trade their time for money. You are being raised to build and run the machine that pays them. Level 7. The private world. Above $30 million, private banks label the family ultra-high net worth. From here, your childhood is an estate plan with a heartbeat, managed by professionals you have never met. Elite boarding school. $70,000 per year, tuition and board. At 14, you leave home for boarding school. Exeter, Andover, Choate, where a year costs about $70,000. And your dorm mates are future senators, founders, and heirs. Every January, each parent gifts you $19,000 under the annual exclusion, completely tax-free. 18 years of that builds a six-figure fortune you never lifted a finger for. Your allowance is a card that settles itself each month, and nobody reviews the statement unless something looks strange. The training is no longer about getting money. It is about handling it. You are taught quiet luxury before you are taught to drive. No logos, no bragging, never discuss what the family owns. Visible money, your mother explains, is a security risk. You have held 3 passports and flown private since before your 10th birthday. Yet you fly commercial back to school because in this family, comfort is private and optics are managed. At 16, you learn there is a trust with your name on it, releasing in thirds at 25, 30, and 35, guarded by a trustee whose entire job is saying no. The family catechism is 4 words long. Never touch the principal. You may live on what the money earns, but the money itself belongs to a generation not yet born. Your first job at 17 is an internship at the private bank that manages the family money, arranged by the relationship manager himself. You will be his client for 60 years. The lesson of this level is stewardship. You are not rich. The structure is rich. You are simply this generation's caretaker of a balance sheet older than you. Level 8. The dynasty. $100 million, the altitude of the single-family office. Childhood here is a governance problem, and there are salaried professionals whose actual job is solving you. Single-family office. $1 million, $2 million annual running cost. The family runs its own office now, a private firm of accountants, lawyers, and investors, costing $1 to $2 million a year to operate. Its longest-running project is raising you. You were raised partly by staff, a nanny with a teaching degree earning $150,000 a year, selected the way other families select a school district. At 13, you attend what insiders call air school, the wealth education programs private banks run for clients' children, where teenagers grill portfolio managers before they can legally drive. Study the curriculum for a second. Asset protection, discretion, estate law, governance. Then notice what sits at the very bottom. Earning a paycheck is the one skill nobody needs you to have. Your inheritance arrives with an instruction manual, an incentive trust that matches every dollar of salary you earn, funds ventures the trustees approve, and pays nothing if you simply drift. U.S. estate tax exemption, $15 million per parent. The estate tax exemption now shields about $15 million per parent, and everything above it faces 40%. That is why your childhood was wrapped in trusts before you could walk. At 16, you take a seat on the family foundation board and vote on real grants with real money. It is training wheels for power, dressed up as charity. Even love gets governed here. You have known since 15 that your wedding will involve lawyers and a prenup because at this level, marriage is a merger between balance sheets. What looks like a lucky kid is really a trained successor. The world calls this child lucky, and the world is not wrong. But luck is only the entry fee. What the money actually bought was 20 years of deliberate professional training. Remember the two kids in that classroom with identical grades. One learned at 8 that money is fear. The other voted on a $1 million grant at 16. Same country, different curriculums. None of these children chose their curriculum, and neither did you. But adults are allowed to re-enroll. Whatever level trained you, the next level's lessons are learnable, and now you own the syllabus.